Okay, it's time to make some loaves. So I'm making 2 loaves, so I'm doubling the recipe. You can make 1 loaf. You can, whatever you want to do. Obviously, you would just do it in half. But I'll tell you what the units are here. Okay, we got grams. And for 1 loaf, it's 350 grams. So for 2 loaves, it's 700 grams of water. You want filtered water, you don't want fluorinated water. So 700 grams of water. I like to put the water in first. I kind of do a little bit of a float test with my starter. Now, it's fine if it doesn't float. It really is. It can be like totally fine. So my starter already started to go down. It like literally just got, ow, that cut me really bad, actually. I have a sourdough cut, like a dried sourdough cut. Not a paper cut, a sourdough cut. Anyways, might need a Band-Aid. Anyways, now we're gonna do 200 grams of starter. Okay, yeah, it has a good float, a little float to it. 200 grams of starter. I have to check on my boo-boo. I called it a boo-boo. All right, 200 grams. Might need some help getting it out. I need a spatula or something. You know what? I'm just gonna use a knife. To get the 200 grams. Here we go. We're at 193.95. Okay, at least I know I have plenty of room on my phone now. I just cleared off like over 1,300 photos and videos. It was ridiculous. Okay. I'm gonna clear it out again. I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna mix the starter and the water together. Just get it going. Okay, so it would be 100 grams of starter if you're doing 1 loaf. So 350 water, 100 starter, but I did 200 because I did 700. Now, like the more starter you add, like you can add less or you can add more. The more starter you add, the faster it'll rise. I believe it speeds it up, and then the less, like, anyways. But you probably want to get down like a recipe before you start messing with that. I'm just saying. There's a lady called the Sourdough Gal. She's amazing at like doing all this stuff. She does have different amounts than me, but whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna do. So it would be 500 grams of flour. For 1 loaf, I'm doing 1,000 grams, which usually means I should just be pouring it, not scooping it. Okay, we're getting closer. We're at 9. It's so funny. I usually am like right at the bottom of my thing when I get to 1,000. There we go, 1,000. Okay, 1,000 grams of flour, and then just 10 grams of salt per loaf. So I'm doing 20 grams. And then I'm just gonna stir it up. And literally, that's it. Like, that's kind of it. We're gonna stir it up. And then what I like to do is I'll put a shower cap on this. You can put, I'm using a dough whisk. You don't have to use a dough whisk. I don't remember what I used before a dough whisk, but I'm trying to think. I don't know. You can even use your hands. But I'm using a dough whisk. You can figure out what you have. What was I gonna say though? I had a point here. Oh, you can put a shower cap on this if you have one of those. Or I used just the saran wrap before that. Or if you have those like covers, some people have those covers. I think I have some too. Yeah, I do have some. They're just like I don't know what you call it. It looks like a shower cap, but it's like thicker, and I can't think of what the actual material is. So, anywho, but I just want to mix this so you don't see any flour. So, it takes a little bit of some muscle to get it all mixed up, especially if you do, like the more loaves you do, the more muscles you got to put into it. So doing one loaf is easier than doing two, but. All right. And, oh, I will say, before I started this, I had to consider the time frame because I was going to start this when I, got going around 6 or 7 a.m., but then I realized that about 8 hours after 7 is around 3 p.m. and I'm supposed to be helping at Lindsay's school today, and she has presentations, so I may be gone from like 2 to 7, and so I won't have time to dump and do the things I need to do then, which is you really need to be available for that. It only takes about 10-20 minutes to do it. Well, actually, no, false. It takes a little more than 30 minutes because you have to dump it and then you form it, let it sit for 30 minutes, kind of harden on the outside. Yeah, okay, so you do need like 40 minutes. But anywho, you have to be home for that. And so I decided to wait till 11-ish. It's going on noon right now, but 8 hours after noon is 8 p.m. and I know I'll be home at that time, so I'll be able to dump it and do that. And I'm gonna put mine at a temp in the oven with a light on, and that'll really give it more of that 8-hour bulk fermentation time. So if I wanted it longer, if I wanted it to take longer, I could leave it on the counter. I just didn't want to risk it, so I decided to go with something very familiar, which is putting it in the oven, and it's pretty much always good at the 8-hour mark. And that's with using ingredients that are room temperature. If I were to bring my starter out from the fridge and make it from that point, it would make it a colder temperature dough. So that would change things. And what I did in the beginning was I did like a temperature check on my dough. You don't have to get all that technical. I mean, I also have done many of them where I just wing it. But as I wanted to sell it and make it for sale, I wanted to get more scientific and understanding it all. So, anywho, all that to say, you can just follow what I'm saying and not have to do dough temps checks and stuff like that. But if you have any issues with something, maybe that's where we can come back to, like, what's your house temperature at? If it's colder, it's going to take longer. If it's warmer, it's going to go quicker. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to put a shower cap on this, and I suppose these are shower caps too. Anyways, and I'm going to put this on here, and I'm going to let it sit for a half hour, and then I'm going to do what's called a stretch and fold, or a coil fold. So I like the coil fold where you just put your hand underneath it, you pull it up, and then you just kind of let it fall down a little bit. You don't want it to rip or tear, and then you set it down nicely, and then you turn the bowl 90 degrees and do the same thing, and then let it set. And then I just put the top back over it. And I do this with wet hands so it doesn't get too sticky. Okay, so I'm not gonna come back on here and do this over and over, like coil folds. There's a million different videos out there to see how they're done. Or you can do stretch and fold. Stretch and folds is you just pick up a side, flop it down, pick up a side, flop it down. Same thing, you don't wanna rip or stretch it. You just wanna pick it up to where it's okay, it's giving some tension, and then flop it down. And then I do like to, at the very end, just kind of get it away from the sides a little bit, and then I put the cover back on it. And then I do that every 30 minutes. I do about 4 of those. If I don't have the time, I do 1 of them. If I don't have the time at all, I do none of them. And the difference is you just don't see as much airiness and the holy inside the bread that I just love, that crumb look and everything like that. So that's the difference. Yeah, so it's not a big deal if you don't have that time for that, but I prefer it, and obviously if I'm selling it, I'm gonna do it the same way every time. So I will do 4 of them today. It's noon, so I'll get it done by 2, right? Every half hour. So, and then I gotta go, so that works out perfect. Okay, I'm sticking this in the oven. Bye everyone.